Hello and welcome everyone to Pucks and Brews. My name is Michael Sparacino, Michael Shade Sparacino, as always, joined by Liam the Chellmaster Godimer. We are on episode 52 of Pucks and Brews. Liam, how are you?
I'm well, not a master at shell today, I gotta be honest. Returned home early this morning, and after waking up this afternoon, I decided to turn on shell and played myself a game, and I was down 2-0. Then the guy quit while up 2-0. So I was like, all right, feeling pretty good, so I'll play again. And I just lost in a shootout, tough one, 2-1. So we're coming into this episode of Pucks and Brews on an L in shell, but that's okay because I'm back with you, Shades, and we're here to talk NHL and New York Rangers hockey, and that's always a great thing. So
Ellen Shell. That is a good name for something.
that is,
It
yeah.
is. You
Not
actually,
Netflix, not Netflix and chill. Ellen chill.
no, Ellen Shell. Ellen Shell. And then afterwards you just get left alone because of how angry you are.
Yeah, it's like I don't even want to hang out with you anymore. I just want to sit here and be angry and throw my controller at the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I
You
don't
want to
know.
know
No
something?
wide shell. And Shades, I know that you can relate. I don't know why shell brings the anger out of me. I'm not an angry person, Shades. I don't think you are either. And
Well, it
just,
depends on what we're talking about.
I know, but something as insignificant as a video game kills me. Kills me.
True.
I don't know.
True. Oh, trust me, I understand. You should have seen the rage that came out of me during NHL 15. My
Well, for
brother and
yeah.
my father can both attest to that because they were asleep in the living room and I woke them up from the basement. So,
Well, for those of you who don't know, Shades was an active shell player until he put the controllers down. And I think you recently picked them back up, but
oh
they're
hell
in.
no.
No, you haven't.
No.
Okay, so you're
I'm
still
sorry.
going full
I
time.
can't.
You're done. You're done. Okay.
No, I can't go back to it. I just can't. But you want to know something funny? Brendan, of all people, has actually been on a little bit of a rough patch lately in Shell.
Shades, I haven't mentioned it because I don't want to be that guy. But since you brought it up, I played Brendan a couple of weeks ago.
And
I won. And
the, the Shell Master,
it
baby.
it wasn't to the degree of difficulty that other games against Brendan have been like in the past. I love Brendan, but when I faced him before, I feel like I had a tougher time than I did this latest time.
Interesting. Interesting.
But to be
Well,
fair, we were playing World of Shell. Like, let's get together, same room, big TV, and play against each other, and let's see how that goes. He'll probably whip my behind, but
hmm,
I think I have one up on him in our latest head-to-head matchup. So
instead of playing the current shell, we've literally just played old shells every time we get together now because it's just more enjoyable.
oh, it really is for sure.
Oh yeah.
Especially this. I mean, Mitchell's been all right. It's just that offensive zone pressure thing. You just have guys just coming in and ragging the puck and can't get it. And one or two things happen: a penalty or a goal, and then they rag the puck even more. But I can go on for days. And Brendan, when he listens and watches this, he'll probably shake his head and agree. What I'm saying. It's been a tough sled for us NHL 23 gamers, but we have hope. We have.
Yeah, that sounds like Chell. And also, Brendan did not buy the game at the release date. He got a late start this year, so that may have something to do with it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So,
I
but
will be
hey, a win
100%
against Brendan
transparent.
and Chell is a win against Brendan and Chell.
100%. I will be 100% transparent before we leave this topic. I bought it right at the release date. I might have even pre-ordered it. So I might have been a little bit more seasoned than Brendan when we faced off. I'd love to face you again, and I'm sure the result would be different. With that, that's all I got.
With that, let me take a sip of my medium cold brew and let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Let's do it. No drink for me. I'm just gonna watch you enjoy your cold brew. You didn't forget to get it today. You got it.
Well, no, I always remember to get it. I
Oh,
just remembered to get it on my way home from work this time, so I didn't have to go back out of the house.
that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's
Little
always good when you
vacation for
remember to do
Shades.
stuff.
Yep. And we even had the Shades' camera go out of focus before the episode started. So hopefully this doesn't
Twice.
happen while the episode's going on. I think this episode of Pucks and Brews, we might be this might be one of our best. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's not talk too soon. Anyway, here we go. All right, so obviously the to get on a touchy subject right off the bat, the Hockey Canada scandal was brought up again this past week, and we now know the five players that have been charged, four of them currently being in the NHL, one of them being a former NHLer, which is the former NHLer being Alex Formenton, right?
Yes, that's correct. He's playing overseas.
Who was on the Senators at one point, if I remember correctly. The other four are Dillon Dube of the Calgary Flames, Michael McLeod of the
New Jersey
Devils or
Devils.
Capitals?
Devils.
Of the Devils, Carter Hart on the Flyers, and the last guy is escaping me.
Cal Foote.
Cal Foote on the in the Tampa Bay Lightning system, if I remember correctly. So we're not going to go too much into the topic, but those are the five players that have been charged in the sexual assault incident. And as of now, nothing has happened. No trial has gone on yet. That is incoming, but they're all on leave of absences from the team. And hopefully the trial brings forth all the information about what actually happened that night, and anybody who is guilty suffers the appropriate consequences.
Totally. It's 100% a sad situation. And especially when you have young, talented players, like all of those guys that you mentioned, kind of being brought in such a light. It's something that you never really want to associate with the game that we all love. And to everybody negatively affected by the actions that these players may or may have done, that's horrible. And again, like you said, Shades, I hope those who committed those horrible acts are brought to justice and that eventually the truth does come out. The only additional information I'll add is that all of the players' agents have come out and acknowledged that they have been charged with one count of sexual assault, but of course have vehemently denied that the respective players' involvement. So, like you said, the trials are forthcoming, and for right now, the charges happen. This is something that we were expecting to come to a head fairly soon, and it did today.
Yeah, now it made sense why a lot of seemingly random players were taking leave of absences, but now we know why.
And Shades, one thing to add on top of that, and then we'll leave the topic. Um, uh, uh, I can't really attest to the Flyers. I think they kept it extremely vague, but the Flames, in regard to Dillon Dube, when they mentioned that he is going to be out for an extended period of time, they alluded to the issue as mental health concerns. And I know that the organization is under fire a lot for that. Um, you know,
Deservedly so.
and deservedly so. This is, I kind of think when you say mental health concerns, I think that can generate sympathy sometimes. And I think for Dillon Dube, the last thing that anybody should be sending him is sympathy at this point in time. So I just wanted to address that and that it was just the Flames and that no other team went into specifics that it was, regarding mental health specifically. And, I credit those teams, like Philadelphia and like Tampa Bay, who just came out, kept it very vague, and explained the situation that was going on. I hope Calgary fixes their mistake, and I guess we'll just leave it there, and we'll see what comes next from the situation.
Yes. So now that you actually brought up mental health concerns, that actually perfectly segues into the next player we're about to talk about in Patrik Laine, because he has officially entered the player assistance program for, I don't know exactly, but when I was talking with Justin on Chirp and Chat the other night, it may possibly be associated to painkiller abuse because of the injury that he had, but that's complete speculation. I'm not saying anything for a fact. I don't want to get sued. I'm not reporting anything, but he has, in fact, like I said, he's in the player assistance program, and yeah, I mean, I hope he gets the help that he needs.
Yeah, for Patrik Laine, it's been quite the story, right? You get drafted number 2 overall in your draft year. You get traded over to Columbus, promised a bigger role. You play under John Tortorella, And of course, if whether it's mental health or whether it's what you said that is related to his absence, I think playing under that coach, a hard-nosed coach, and not performing up to expectations, that can take a toll on yourself mentally. And I think for Laine, who really hasn't been able to pick his game back up since Torts left Columbus, I think, maybe he just needs to step away from the game and really find the player that he once was. And again, regardless of what the issue is, I'm not going to speculate. I just hope he gets better. And again, looking at the bigger picture shades, I'm actually happy that this happened. Of course, not happy that Patrik Laine, has to go into the player assistance program. But shades, now more than ever, we're seeing players be vulnerable and come out and realize, okay, I have a problem in this point in my life, and I am going to use the player assistance program to get me back on track. And it's really inspiring. And you know what? Credit to Patrik Laine and credit to Spencer Knight. And, of course, he wasn't a player at the time he went in, but credit to Bobby Ryan as well, who went in, for alcohol abuse. Like, again, a lot of these guys legitimately trying to turn around their lives, utilizing the resources that the NHL is giving them. And for Patrik Laine, he had to humble himself as a number 2 overall pick and somebody who was a real up and coming superstar in this league to go and do that. So I really hope that everything goes well with him moving forward. And again, that he gets the help that he needs, whether that's mentally or whether that's something that he's dealing with behind the scenes.
Perfectly said. And two other notable names that have gone into the assistance program in recent years have been Carey Price and Robert Lehner. Both of them just so happened to be goaltenders. And those were like two pretty big ones, especially with Lehner, because he was kind of the first person that kind of started this whole thing. And even he said, in hindsight, like if I would do it over again, I probably wouldn't have said anything. But I'm glad he did because, I mean, it's giving players courage moving forward to actually go into it saying, okay, yes, something's wrong. I need help.
And for the longest time, the prioritization was the game over a player's mental health. And I think finally, for the first time in the last few years, we're starting to see that change. And Shades, let's not miss or overlook what you just said, that the players that we're rattling off who are entering the player assistance program are stars. These are not just, fourth liners who are just coming out and entering themselves in. You got Carey Price, Patrik Laine, Spencer Knight. All of these guys are viewed in the eyes of the NHL fans as superheroes, and they're being vulnerable. And again, like I said before, they're realizing that they're having a problem and they're utilizing the resources that are available. So, again, well said on your end. And again, I look forward to seeing Patrik Laine back on the ice soon.
Same, same. Now, go to get a little bit lighter and a little bit happier. So the Edmonton Oilers are currently on a 16 game winning streak. And you could have given me 100 things to write down about this NHL season. The Edmonton Oilers winning 16 games in a row almost certainly would not have been on that list, especially after how they started the season, just, let's be honest, almost as bad as the Sharks.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Shades. I mean, before the season started, or right after the season started, right when Edmonton was going through their immense amount of struggles. And for me, it was due to goaltending, it was due to depth, and it was due to defense. And all three of those things in this recent stretch have been shored up. There's no question that Edmonton has always had the talent. Whenever you have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and the back end the way it is. And again, the goaltending is the goaltending. And if they lose in the playoffs and they flame out, it will definitely be because of the goaltending. But for right now, I cannot sit here and say anything bad about a team that has won 16 straight games. So for right now, they are performing as we all expected them to perform at the start of the year. And that's why we were so shocked when at the beginning of the season, they were playing the way they were. I mean, they looked like an absolute shell of the team that had really stormed their way to the Stanley Cup playoffs the year before and had really made quite the impact. And now we're starting to see it in the middle of the season after a coaching change where they bring in Chris Knobloch, formerly of the New York Rangers. Again, just a big testament to the New York Rangers organization. I mean, come on, 16 game winning streak. You bring in a coach from Hartford. Just saying. But no, congratulations to the Oilers. But now it's put up or shut up time in the playoffs. You know, you have proven to me and the rest of the NHL fan base that you can win in the regular season and come very close to winning a division crown. Now go and win the cup or get close to the Stanley Cup. You can't flame out in the first or second round because you're running out of time with McDavid. And regardless of whether you have a 16-game winning streak or not during the regular season, all that matters is the playoffs. And a player of Connor McDavid's caliber wants to win a ring. And that's that.
It's scary to think that it's McDavid's ninth season in the league already.
Yep,
It
it
really is
is.
scary. But the question that is basically in the most near future out of all the things you said, or let's be honest, didn't say, is will they tie and or break the record of 18 set by the Penguins? Because the All-Star game, All-Star weekend came right now.
So their next game is going to be February the 6th against the Golden Knights. So they would have to beat the Golden Knights and the Kings in two out of their next three games to defeat the record set by the Penguins.
The
The
middle
other,
game of those three being Anaheim, right?
yes, and all three of those games are on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this streak, again, I think it really comes down to Las Vegas on the 6th. I think if they beat Vegas, I think that they will have enough momentum behind them to where they'll probably beat Anaheim too. And at that point, you'll give yourself a chance to break the record. But again, beating LA and beating Vegas on the road is easier said than done. Just ask our beloved New York Rangers. So,
All I'm going to say is don't overlook that Anaheim game because most of the time it's a team that shouldn't end one of those streaks that does.
yep, yep, fair enough. Fair enough. And Edmonton has had a little bit of a tough time with Anaheim, so we'll see.
Yeah, you and I have watched sports long enough to the point where do not overlook teams like that in that specific situation.
Yes, 100%. So again, only time will tell, but it's really a tough time for the All-Star break to really come in for the Oilers, right? You know, you wish that you just continue to roll on and continue to keep playing and, carry on that momentum. And for me, are they going to be able to carry that through over a week into their next game? So we'll see.
That we will. That we will. And with all that being said, we move on to our usual New York Rangers portion of the podcast. Since I say this every episode, and I'm going to continue to say it every episode, we are in fact New York Rangers fans, as much as we hate the team sometimes. But FIlip Chytil, unfortunately, has been shut down for the rest of the season. He suffered a concussion in, I think, November, mid-November, and he's been out ever since. He ended up going back to Czechia as part of the recovery process for a couple weeks, came back last week and was actually practicing in a red non-contact jersey. Two practices in, goes down. Nobody really saw what happened, but we are pretty much everybody pretty much knew at that moment that it was the injury slash concussion related, and he has rightfully been shut down the rest of the season. And if I am the New York Rangers moving forward, let him go back home, let him get the treatment. I personally wouldn't even reevaluate him until at least August. What are your thoughts on the situation?
It's a sad situation for sure for a player that really was starting to blossom into a star before our very eyes. And of course, with Rangers' recent history with drafting and kind of not getting that instant gratification from first round draft picks, it was nice to see Heedle come into his own. And I'm sure you'll agree with me coming into this year. I was expecting him to be one of the biggest pieces of this offense, quite frankly, right there alongside Lafreniere and Kako. And Kako's had his injury issues. Lafreniere has broken out. And again, I thought it was a little bit premature to have Heedle come back to practice when he did. But again, if he's going to re-aggravate a possible concussion in a non-contact practice, I think that tells you that he's too fragile right now with his injury history to be playing legit NHL games. So even if he would be cleared and would be in a position when the Rangers are in the stretch run to come back and join the team, it would not be in the player's best interest and it would not be in the team's best interest to do so. So shutting him down is the right choice to make. And it brings up a question, Shades. So you threw it to me, and I'm going to throw it right back to you. Now the Rangers have a decision to make come the trade deadline, and suddenly, a middle six center has become the priority, much like it's been in years past. And once again, it rears its ugly head once again. So, Shades, where do you turn after this if you're Drury?
Well, you brought this up earlier than I thought you were going to, but I guess we'll talk about it now. So obviously, the need for a third line center has come up because Trocheck is actually having a very good season, and putting him at 2C does not bother me at all. I actually think that's a pretty good problem to have if he's in need of being your 2C. But
Oh,
with
how the tides have turned for Shades on Vincent Trocheck.
I mean, I never really hated him. I'm just saying, like, yeah, he
The
was
time of the
last year.
signing, you were like, I don't know if this is our middle six guy. And, you know,
No, okay, if I remember correctly, I said good AAV, terrible term.
yes, yes, I believe that's what you said. But again, it's
Yeah,
just the only reason I mentioned that is that it's just a testament to Tro. And he's just been fantastic. And he
yeah.
works so well with Lafreniere and Panarin that he has to be your second line center. So okay, Shades, third
Okay,
line.
so before I move on,
Yeah,
right, Vincent Trocheck rightfully gets voted to the All-Star game as part of the Rangers, which outside of Panarin, he was definitely the most deserving player on the team, in my opinion. So
agreed.
good on him. Happy that happened. So, okay. Obviously, the need becomes a third line center now. And honestly, with the way our fourth line is playing, or has been playing the entirety of the season so far, fourth line center is frankly also an underrated need, even though it's probably not an underrated need, especially after Chytil going down. So that's two spots that desperately need to be addressed for both short term and arguably long term, depending on what happens with Chytil's situation here. Because if you look at Crosby and the concussion issue that he had back in the early 2010s, he was basically out for an entire year. So, if
Right.
not
And
more.
I think right now, right, I don't think there can really be any topic of discussion about Hedo coming back. I think the Rangers'
No.
mindset has to be that we're going on with this player for the foreseeable future without him. So
If yeah, Drury has to operate under the assumption that they're not going to get him back. Because if you do get him back, all of a sudden you're getting a quality NHL player inserted back into your lineup that you didn't have to give up anything for. So he has to operate under that assumption for sure. But let's not also forget that the two other biggest needs that have one of them has probably been their biggest single need the last 2.5 seasons up to this point is a top line right winger because hey, Blake Wheeler's been scoring goals lately, but he's not that guy anymore. Lafreniere is he looked great and looked like he was really coming into his own at the start of the season. Then he kind of fell off pretty hard there for a while. Now it looks like he's rebounding a little bit. But fact of the matter is, he's not that guy right now. Hopefully, he is that guy in the future, but he's not that guy right now. So that is definitely, in my opinion, probably actually, I would probably put that at need number one on the sole basis of how bad Kreider and Mika are at even strength. So, in my opinion, that is need number one. Second need, this could arguably, you could go for a tie here of third slash fourth line center and or both and left defense because you and I have watched. I will be honest, I haven't been able to catch every game just because, yeah, life. And also, my interest level for this season is at an all-time low since I started watching hockey 13 years ago. So that happened. But our left side of defense has been frankly horrible this season outside of Lindgren. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, kind of how I evaluate what you said. I mean, I'm going to disagree in terms of the priorities. Um, I think it's a toss-up really for the first two, whether, a bottom six center or a top line right.
The only reason I put that is because
Yeah,
obviously
not saying it's a bad
we
call.
desperately need a fourth line center, but the fourth line in general has been so bad that I don't think one player is gonna change that. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, it's really what do you want out of your fourth line, right? I remember then there was a time where the Rangers had Ryan Reeves on there, and we couldn't, as our fan base, couldn't wait to run him out of town. So then you replace him with speedy, skilled, forechecking players like I don't know Tyler Pitlick and Brodzinski and those guys, and now Ranger fans don't like that either. So it's kind of pick the way you want to formulate your fourth line. That's just where I stand on that. As far as the top six winger, Shades, like I've kind of been of the mindset that I'm okay with Capo Caco on that first line right wing with Mika and Kreider. But I really think you hit the nail on the head, and I can't really combat it, to be honest with you. Kreider and Zibanejad have been so bad at 5-on-5 that you need to bring somebody from the outside to spark them. And I'm sorry, I love Kako, and he's great defensively as a forward. He's not that guy on the offensive side of the puck to where he is going to be able to bring two players who are completely lost and make them the contributors that the Rangers need them to be. So with that said, I understand why many fans are looking at Anaheim and saying, "Oh, well, you got Adam Henrique, who's a third line center with playoff experience, and you have Frank Vetrano, who we had, and he was very good in that one playoff run with the Rangers." I would not touch Adam Henrique. I
Nope.
mean, 0.825 million, that kind of reeks to me. And Vetrano I love, but if acquiring Vetrano means that we have to go bring in Henrique too, that's something I want no part of. Um, but there's no question a move needs to be made, and for me, I would go look at Yanni Gord in Seattle. I've wanted Gord
Oh
ever
yeah.
since I'm in Tampa. Seattle not really competing right now. I haven't really checked up on them recently, but I don't think they're in an immediate playoff push. So maybe Drury looks over out west and sees what he can do there. Um, as far as defense, Keandre Miller has taken a lot of criticism. And again, like Laine, you never know what's going on. And Miller took time away for mental health issues. And sometimes that happens. I mean, I'll ask you and I'll ask everybody watching when you're going through mental health concerns, when there's issue with your family, your friends, what have you, just any issues in your life. When you come into work the next day, are you the same bubbly person you were on day one?
Nope.
You're not. I'm
No.
not. So Keandre Miller isn't. So again, you don't know what's affecting him, and I think that there is legitimate reason to why his play has been the way it has. And for me, I don't really think you're going to like the answer, and I don't think many Ranger fans are going to like the answer, but this is where I stand on it. Let him play. Let him make the mistakes. He's a player that is not going to leave the Rangers lineup. He's a big part of our future. And you got to let him go through the growing pains. I get it. The team wants to win a Stanley Cup. But for me, I think trading Keandre Miller is not a part of the cards. Not right now. I don't see it.
Okay,
Or
I
maybe,
can
yeah, I just don't see it. I really don't. I'm not doubting that he has struggled. He has 100% struggled. And the help on defense is much, much, much needed. We just extended him. I don't see us trading.
I can see why you think that way because it was a player drafted as of the time we're recording, it's January 30th, less than 6 years ago. He's not even 25 yet. He, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's definitely had a very rough season. There's no sugarcoating that. But you also have to look at who's been on our third pair defense on the left side. It's been basically a
I look at those guys
combination.
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's been a combination of Zach Jones and Connor Mackey, right?
Yeah, yeah. And hey, Mackey was a huge spark plug for us there in Ottawa.
I
But yeah,
unfortunately missed that game because I was upstate.
right. And the other thing for me, shades on Miller before, we leave the topic, regarding Keandre, I just want to
Yep.
mention this. I think Miller's upward trajectory as a player goes hand in hand with Trouba playing well. And I think Miller and Trouba, the pairing really wasn't noticed by Ranger fans in the beginning of the season because Trouba was really playing well. And as we've head towards the middle part of the year and the latter part of the season, Trouba's play has dipped and Miller's play has dipped right there along with him. So I wouldn't just place this solely on Miller. I think that Keandre relies a lot on his defensive partner, and when he's not operating at 100%, neither is Miller.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because that pair in general,
I'm
going
terrible.
back to last season,
Yeah.
it hasn't been too good. Let's be honest here.
But the Rangers are stuck. You have an $8 million defenseman. So,
Oh, believe me, I'm well aware of that. I hated
yeah.
that contract the second. That was another contract I hated the second it was signed.
And I don't think Trouba's been the worst captain for the Rangers. I think he does show leadership, but I just, I mean, too many nights, whether it's been last year or this season so far, the reason why the Rangers have lost have been because of Trouba and Miller, just that combination.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. So,
Yes, I mean that's definitely a part of it. And hey,
there's
during
another
this
part of it too.
discussion, yeah,
Yeah.
during this discussion, we've brought up a couple different reasons why they're struggling. But the only
Yeah, we
re
got the
like,
big one.
yeah, it's Jesus Christ.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that, which is pretty much right now. So, beginning of the season, Rangers have Jonathan Quick signed. I'm still not happy because I still haven't forgiven the guy from what happened 10 years ago. You all know what I'm talking about. And
10 years ago. Holy shit.
yeah, we're getting old. And he comes in and beginning of the season plays, let's be honest, he plays fantastic, gets to like a 9-1 record or whatever it was. And all of a sudden, things kind of come crashing down. And not only for him, but the team in general, because he at one point lost like 4 out of 5. The team in general has lost more games than they've won over their past, what is it, 19 or 21 or something like that. I don't remember the exact stat I saw, but let's be honest, this team was winning games earlier in the season, not playing their best, but it was a weird, good not winning, playing their best, unlike, in my opinion, the previous 2 seasons where, let's be honest, they were getting lucky. I didn't feel like earlier in the season it was luck. They were playing a new system, getting acclimated to the new system, playing within the system. And my question to you is what the hell happened? Because it just looks like this team has fallen off a cliff, both physically and mentally. They look like they're going through the motions half of every game, which is not a good sign in the middle of a coach in his first year.
I will say this, Shades. I'll say two things. I'll preface my answer by saying that, like you said at the beginning of when we started talking about the Rangers, that you haven't been able to keep up with this team as much as you have in years past. The same thing has happened to me. So, full transparency. I haven't been able to watch, the exact number of games that the Rangers have played up to this point in the year.
In your
But
defense, I mean, you do work nights because you're an ECHL announcer, so you have a legitimate reason. I'm just not home.
yeah, no, exactly. But again, to answer your question, for me, Shades, again, I don't know. I think since I moved out of New York, like I haven't become so reactive to things in regard to my sports teams. And, I'm just listen, let's just let it ride out. I don't think it's anything more than the Rangers just not getting up for a game in January. I mean, it's tough, for across an 82 game season for a team to get up, against a mediocre opponent in a place that you probably really don't want to play when you know you have a playoff spot secured. I kind of think their heads are in playoff mode. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying that the team itself has confidence in the group that they're going to make the playoffs to where they don't have to really give 100% in these games. And if you lose, you lose. And there are issues. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Kreider and Zibanejad not finding their game, it's concerning. Do I think that we're still going to be talking about this come March? No, I really don't.
I hope not.
I really don't. I think Mika's going to turn it on. Kreider, you can say what you want, whether he's effective on the power play or not, but Mika always does this. He always does this. and he turns it on and he goes through a stretch where he scores like 15 goals in 7 games. And then suddenly you look at his totals and it's like, all right, that's a Mika season. So I'm not really ready to run for the hills and call this team not a Stanley Cup contender anymore just because they're struggling. But there are issues, don't get me wrong. And if they don't fix it, they could be, an early exit. But to say that they're not a contender just because they're struggling, I think it's ridiculous. I think they're just a team with a bunch of superstars that are not getting up for games in January that really don't matter
I
when
will
you're
say this.
at the top of the division.
I will say this. It's happened long enough this stretch to the point where it is starting to get concerning because I remember specifically in the 2013-14 and 2014-15 seasons, it was around the start of the new year where those teams really kicked it into another gear on the like throughout the rest of the season, and it that has not happened with this team yet. And you and I, but we're talking before, we mentioned it. This team is in desperate need of a roster shakeup.
It is.
Now, granted, it
Yeah.
has been we have been dealing with the Chytil thing. Kako's like been in and out of the lineup injury wise. Certain players haven't stepped up, but we did allude to this. Players do seem checked out in a lot of the games, especially recently. What do you, is it, do you think it's the core of the team, or do you think it's just certain players like that are currently on the team, not necessarily associated to the core, or do you think it's a combination of both?
Being a broadcaster, this is one of the things that kind of I've learned being around the team. Shades, it takes everybody. There's a reason why one of the biggest cliches in all of broadcasting hockey is you got to roll 4 lines in order to be effective. You need everybody with their heads in the game. And for me, again, I don't want to call out one guy, but I'll just use him as an example. We're talking about Jacob Trouba, right? And
Yep.
how he's had issues this season. If your captain doesn't get up for a game, why should I as a fourth line winger?
Mm. Solid point. Solid point.
So, it takes everybody and, captains and again, alternate captains, same thing, it's not just Truba, it's the entire leadership group. If Kreider's not given 110% on a shift, then why should Wheeler? Well, okay, Wheeler's a bad example, but if, like, why should Brodzinski, So for me, it just, they just seem a little bit discombobulated right now. And, everybody is not committed to winning like they were before. And again, I think that they'll turn it around and that their mindset will change once the stretch run comes. But I will agree with you at that point, Shades. This is not like past years where the Rangers have had extended runs in the postseason to where they have started off the season struggling, found their game towards the holidays, and ridden, the wave all the way into the playoffs. Like, remember when the Rangers went all the way to the Cup, their first trip of the season before they even played at home? Where did they go? They went to the West Coast and they
Yep.
lost 7-1 to the San Jose Sharks. And Tomas Hertl went between the legs over Marty Biron,
And
ended
basically retired him. Yeah.
ended his career. Yep. So and
The
then
funny thing is, I actually missed that game live.
I watched it and I was like, man, this Hertl guy's pretty good. And yeah, still over there in San Jose. I'm happy they held on to him. So
Yeah, but you want to know the funny thing? We brought up the fourth line by name probably 6 or 7 times already, and we haven't even mentioned that Nick Bonino was put on waivers and is currently in Hartford.
yeah. Uh
So,
and credit to Benino going to Hartford. That's a veteran that wants to be here and wants to work his way back, to the Rangers. I don't, will he ever get there? I'm not sure. I mean, Benino is a guy in the playoffs that I think that the Rangers would love to have in their back pocket just in case. But for me, is he one of your best 12 forwards right now? I don't think he is. So
yeah, just goes to show you that he was probably one of their top targets in free agency, specifically for the bottom six, and that, frankly, outside of the one goal he scored and Sam Rosen's hilarious goal call on that, uh, hasn't worked out to this point, and like I said, it's just this team has a lot of holes, and I don't know if another spectacular band-aid fixing miraculous trade deadline is gonna pull this team out of, you know, out of the what's the
Gutter.
yeah, out of the gutter that they're currently in, thank you, and up to where they need to be to the point where they're a legitimate contender. But time will tell on that one.
Time will most certainly tell. Yes.
But you and I are both in agreement that this team definitely needs a shakeup. And well, we've brought it up many times in the episode. We brought out basically all the problems. So what at least one or two of them have to be addressed if we're going to take this team seriously going into the playoffs.
Well, we brought up all the problems except one.
You're right. Because I brought up the other guy and completely forgot about it. Igor Shesterkin.
Not
So
not the best season for Igor. Take it away, Shades.
not the best season is definitely putting it nicely, but he currently is playing well below the Vezina level that we saw him in. Was that his first full season as the number one goalie?
That was his first full season as the number one. Yes,
Which, looking back, oh man, he was absolutely spectacular that season.
he was.
Probably one of the only guys that actually deserved full credit throughout that entire season. But I digress. So in the 2024 season, in 32 games played, he has 19 wins. I love how they don't have the loss stat ready to go there on the app, but okay. Zero shutouts, a 2.86 goals against average, and an alarming 899 save percentage.
And the goals against average isn't too bad, but the save percentage it needs to be over 905.
Yes.
And
You
it's
you know what that says?
yeah.
A surprisingly low or sub 3 goals against average with the save percentage that low means that the team is doing a better job than meets the eye of allowing opponents to get shots on net. Because we've seen goalies with just about the same goals against average in the past where their save percentage is much higher. That means a team is giving up a ton of shots. So in that, I mean, we're doing a better job of that than in years past, but it's just they're in the gutter right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, they are struggling. There's no doubt about it. And again, I'll go back to one of the things that you mentioned earlier in the show when you brought up Jonathan Quick. I think his torrid start to the season and his tenure as a New York Ranger, I kind of think it blinded us a little bit to the overall goaltending situation and to where Shesterkin was really at. And again,
Mhm.
love that Jonathan Quick has had a comeback story and that he's been good with the Rangers. I'm not throwing him out there in the playoffs. My guy is Igor Shesterkin, and the guy I need to be at 100% and be at the top of his game is Igor. So great, Quick won us games. That's awesome. But Shesterkin needs to get right. And for me, there's not really a lot of concern again. Again, like I mentioned with the other topics, and I'll look exactly to Benoit Allaire, the goaltending coach. I mean, he has proven that he can fix goaltenders no matter the situation. Yaroslav Halak, Andrei Pavlich, Jonathan Quick, Cam Talbot, all of these guys have come, after leaving the Rangers and really played really well. So I'm not worried, but Shesterkin's had a pretty horrible year. And an 899 save percentages. It's not even under where Shesterkin is expected to be. It's well
Yeah.
under where he's expected to be. But he's not the only one. Sorokin's not having a great year either on the island. So
Dude, honestly, a lot of goalies around the league are having surprisingly bad seasons.
absolutely.
Yeah, my fantasy team needs help, but that's another story. But like I completely understand your point of view in not hitting the panic button, but I'm gonna go back to something I said earlier. We're going into February. He's played 32 games and his save percentage is this low. So the cause for concern is 100% there and cannot be overlooked because if it's the season started, what, second week of October, it's been 3.5 months now, 32 games in for him in particular. Not ready to hit the panic button, but the panic button needs to be left on the side at the moment because if this goes on for a couple more weeks, we're really going to be saying, what's going on here? This, come on, guys. Like,
The panic button needs to be in clear view
yes.
and in striking distance. I agree with that. I think that we do need to exercise patience, but I think at the same time, like you said, Shades, there's going to come a time where, yeah, we kind of look to the side and we're like, all right, if we're going to win the Stanley Cup, Igor Shesterkin is going to be one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason why. So that's that.
Now, last year, like his drop in play from the season before was expected because let's be honest, that basically happens every single year now that a goalie either who wins the Vezina or is a Vezina finalist has a drop off the next season. That wasn't wasn't completely unexpected, but the fact that it's carrying this far into this season is worrying.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it just goes to show you how spoiled we were when Hank was putting up 920 save percentages in
Yep.
several seasons in a row. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
hard. It really is hard. So, you know,
Now, I will go back to something that you did bring up about how Quick playing great in the season earlier was masking problems. The other thing masking problems was Trouba playing well, Panarin, let's be honest, Frank arguably having an MVP-like season, Trocheck having a great year, in my opinion, a bounce back year. That line in particular and Quick earlier in the season were definitely masking a lot of problems, and it looked like the players in general across the team were more bought into the system. But now, as the season's gone on, obviously we brought this up, the cracks are starting to show. And unless Drury can pull an absolute miracle again during the trade deadline, this the panic button is, for lack of a better term, like you said, needs to be in plain sight.
it does indeed. And Shades, I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to take us to a different topic real quick. We have some breaking news.
Oh
Uh,
boy,
we
breaking
have
news
a,
on Pucks and Brews.
we have a team statement from the Calgary Flames that just came out 5 minutes ago
Oh
on
shit.
Dillon Dube. And the Flames say we have now become aware of the charge of sexual assault that has been laid against Dillon Dube. We take this matter very seriously. Because the matter is now pending legal proceedings, we will have no further comment at this time. We had no knowledge of pending charges at the time Dillon's request for a leave of absence was granted. And again, they had legitimately thought that it was for mental health concerns. And I just want to say I had kind of gone at the Flames organization at the beginning of the episode and just said that that was wrong of them to say that it was mental health concerns. They backtrack, they make it right. So credit to the Flames for doing that. And again, there's no doubt in my mind that that's exactly what happened. That they told him that it was mental health. They ran with that, and then a few days later, what comes out comes out. So good on Calgary for doing that.
Yeah, yeah, especially if it's like an on the spot leave of absence thing. What the player tells you is obviously gonna immediately be put in the PR statement that's gonna be released. So I can't really completely blame them for that.
Neither can I. Yep, absolutely. So just wanted to get that out there and clarify what was said earlier. So, but yeah, Shesterkin struggling, but that's that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's All-Star weekend. Oh, one thing, so I mean, this is basically going to be part of the outro now, but oh, holy crap, those stadium jerseys are awful.
Really, I disagree. Oh man, I like
Okay, I
because I was
know,
thinking
I
about
know
buying
the reason why you and Brendan like them, and it was because of the similarity to the FDNY jerseys.
that, yes, but again, like I like the colorway. Like I think it looked clean. Now
Okay,
the
okay,
other teams,
let me backtrack a little bit. They're not great. The Isles ones, on the other hand, are fucking terrible.
the Islanders ones are horrible. I was worried that you were going to say the Islanders ones.
Islander fans come at me. My buddy Joey, who's a diehard Islanders fan, hates these jerseys.
I didn't like the Devils ones either, to be honest. I mean, hopefully they glow in the dark.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
I
Honestly,
think
dude, the Flyers ones were just
the Flyers, that's a regular road Flyers jersey.
yeah. That's why it didn't bother me compared to the other three.
But no, I love the Rangers one. I've actually considered buying it. So haven't yet, but it's one of my I like it. I do. I really like it. I disagree. The other three I despise, but the Rangers one I like. So
I don't mind the Philly one. I don't really like the Devils one, and obviously, like everybody hates the Islanders one, and for good reason.
I mean, how many times are they going to do it to the Islanders, right? Outside of the Fisherman jersey, which was good. In their
Oh, the
second.
Fisherman jersey looks great compared to this one.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just I feel like they don't know what to do with the logo and the colorway. They didn't do any logo actually on the Islander Stadium
No.
Series jersey, just some blocked letters. So
So my friend Joey's dad actually brought up a solid point. They should have basically just reversed the color scheme from the 2014 Stadium Series jerseys they had. And I'm just like, yeah, that would have been like a million times better.
that would have been a good idea. I
Yeah,
like that.
but that's not what they did. And we literally just get Isles. And that's it. Just the lack of creativity is alarming here.
It's an Islander problem.
Yeah, it is, but I can see why you guys like the Rangers jerseys. So I don't completely like despise them, but they're not one of my favorites.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, well, this has been episode 52 of Pucks and Brews. We covered a wide range of topics with some breaking news that only happens every seemingly once every 20 episodes. I remember the first time the breaking news being when Tampa scored in the 5 overtime game against the Blue Jackets as we were recording backup blue shirts. Yeah, that's a throwback.
Oh, that was yes, that's a throwback.
Yeah, back when we were literally talking to you via Skype while I was holding well, I put my phone on a stack of video games right up to the microphone. Good times.
Humble beginning. Humble beginnings. Humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings, and now it's so much easier with Zoom and literally just me needing a mic and an adapter, which ended up costing me like half the amount of money that I spent on the old podcasting equipment. If only I would have known.
Better late than that. Better late than that.
Better late than never indeed. And I do have a backup mic that my cousins bought for me 2 Christmases ago, just in case this one explodes. So that's always nice. But yeah, this has been episode 52 of Pucks and Brews. Hope everybody enjoys All-Star Weekend. Those jerseys still are terrible, but different jerseys, but still, those are even worse, probably.
Yeah, those are yikes, Phil. So
Yikes, Phil. That's a good way to put it. Uh, yeah, I got nothing else. You got anything?
I got nothing else either. That's all.
Oh, I hope everybody enjoyed the NFC and AFC championship games because those were fucking nuts. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
that was fun. Of course, we
And
got
if we don't record before the Super Bowl, everybody, please enjoy the Super Bowl. You know, who am I kidding? We're not recording until after the Super Bowl. There's no games for 4 days. We're not going to have anything to talk about unless
enjoy,
something big happens. So
enjoy Brock Purdy winning the Super Bowl.
I
Enjoy.
hope so. I hope
Enjoy.
so because I'm sick of the
Me-
Chiefs. I'm sick of Taylor Swift. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I really thought that this was the Bills' year, but
Oh, I
I
knew it wasn't. I was hoping and praying that this was the Ravens' year, at least to get out of the AFC. But
got
I'm
to
a
feel for
dumb sports
Lamar, but
fan.
he'll get back there. We'll see.
Hopefully. But yeah, as always, I've been your host, Michael Shade Sparacino, alongside Liam the Shellmaster Godimer. And even though it's almost 2 weeks away because it's January 30th, enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. Hope you eat your asses off. And let's just hope we get a good game and not one that the refs are trying to be the main focus of.
Right on. Well said.
All right, later.